Welcome to EduCasts, home of EduCasters. If you walk into a university library and pull down the heavy, dusty books on educational theory, you will find a world of neat, clean lines. You will read about essentialism, where the teacher is the authority and the goal is to master the basics. You will read about progressivism, where the child is the center and the goal is growth and experience. You will read about behaviorism, where learning is a science of stimulus and response. In these books, the theories are pure. They are distinct. They are like different religions, each with its own commandments, its own saints, and its own vision of salvation. But if you leave the library and walk into a real American classroom, a room with 28 fourth graders, a broken pencil sharpener, a standardized test looming in May, and a kid crying in the back because he lost his lunch money, you will see something very different. You won't see a pure essentialist or a pure progressivist. You will see a teacher who is juggling. You will see a teacher who uses a strict behavior chart, behaviorism, to keep the room quiet, while simultaneously running a hands-on science experiment, progressivism, to teach the water cycle, all while making sure the kids memorize their multiplication tables, essentialism, and taking a moment to comfort the crying child and validate his feelings, humanism. This is eclecticism. Eclecticism is not a specific philosophy in the way that others are. It doesn't have a single founder like John Dewey or B.F. Skinner. Instead, it is the philosophy of choice. It is the belief that no single theory has a monopoly on the truth. It is the pragmatic, sometimes messy, but deeply necessary practice of selecting the best tools from every available theory to meet the specific needs of the specific students sitting in front of you right now. It is the philosophy that says, I don't care who came up with the idea. I only care if it works. To understand why eclecticism is necessary, you have to understand the history of the one right way. For over a century, American education has been locked in what we call the pendulum swing. In one decade, the experts scream that we need back to basics. They say schools are too soft, kids can't read, and we need strict discipline, core knowledge, and rigorous testing. This is the essentialist swing. Schools strip out recess, double down on phonics drills, and line desks in rows. 10 years later, everyone realizes the kids are bored, anxious, and can't think creatively. So the pendulum swings the other way. Now the experts scream for discovery learning. They say we need project-based learning, student-led inquiry, and open classrooms with no walls. This is the progressive swing. The poor teacher, standing in the middle of this storm, watches these fads come and go. They see the flaw in the extremism. They know that if you only do drills, you kill the love of learning. But they also know that if you only do discovery projects, the kids might never learn to spell encyclopedia. The eclectic educator refuses to ride the pendulum. They stand their ground in the middle. They recognize that human beings are incredibly complex. A child is not just a brain to be filled, essentialism. Nor are they just a flower to be watered, progressivism. Nor are they just a lab rat to be trained, behaviorism. They are all of these things, at different times in different contexts. Therefore, the eclectic teacher builds a toolbox, not a shrine. Imagine a master chef. They don't cook only with salt. They don't cook only with sugar. They understand the properties of every ingredient and mix them to create the perfect dish. The eclectic teacher is that chef. Let's look at the ingredients they pull from the shelf and how they mix them in a real classroom. 1. The essentialist ingredient, the backbone. Eclecticism admits that the essentialists are right about one thing: structure matters. There are some things you just have to know. You can't discover the fact that 7 times 8 equals 56. You have to memorize it. You can't construct the rules of capitalizing proper nouns. You have to be told. So, the eclectic teacher borrows the direct instruction model. When it's time to teach a new math algorithm or a safety procedure, they step to the front of the room. They say, "Eyes on me." They model it. They have the students practice it. They correct errors immediately. They are the authority. They don't apologize for this. They know that without this backbone of core knowledge, the fun projects will fall apart because the kids won't have the skills to do them. 2. The progressive ingredient, the heart. But the eclectic teacher also knows that if they stay in essentialist mode all day, their classroom will feel like a prison. They know the progressives are right about one massive thing: engagement matters. Kids learn best when they care. So, once the basics are secure, the eclectic teacher flips the script. They move the desks into groups. They hand out cardboard, markers, and iPads. They say, "Okay, we learned the math formulas yesterday. Today, you are going to design a tiny house within a budget. Go." Now the teacher is no longer the sage on the stage. They are the guide on the side. They are letting the kids get messy, make mistakes, and learn by doing. They're using the progressive belief that education is life itself, not just preparation for life. 3. The behaviorist ingredient, the guardrails. This is the one many teachers are afraid to admit they use, but the eclectic teacher is honest. They know the behaviorists, like Skinner and Pavlov, were right about something primal. Incentives work. When a class is chaotic, or when a student is struggling with motivation, the eclectic teacher doesn't just hope for the best. They open the behaviorist toolbox. They might use a sticker chart. They might use a class points system for a pizza party. They might use grades. Critics hate this. They say it kills intrinsic motivation. The eclectic teacher listens, nods, and says, "You're right. Ideally, every kid would love math for the sake of math. But right now, it's 2 p.m. on a Friday, and if a Jolly Rancher gets them to finish this worksheet, I'm using the Jolly Rancher." They use behaviorism as a scaffold, a temporary structure to build good habits until the internal motivation kicks in. 4. The humanist existentialist ingredient, the soul. Finally, the eclectic teacher borrows from the humanists. They know that a student is not a robot. They have fears, dreams, traumas, and bad days. So the eclectic teacher starts the day with a morning meeting, a humanist ritual. They check in on feelings. If a lesson is bombing because something tragic happened in the news, the eclectic teacher has the flexibility to scrap the lesson plan and just talk. They prioritize the relationship over the curriculum. They recognize that sometimes the most important lesson isn't on the state test. It's learning that you are a person of worth and that you belong.